Benvenuti a Voci di Innovazione, il nuovo podcast di Cefriel che racconta come l'innovazione prende forma nelle aziende attraverso storie vere e connessioni di valore.
Hello everybody, today I'm with Mohan Subramaniam, who is a professor of digital strategy at IMD Lausanne. And he's an expert of digital transformation. Everybody nowadays is talking about that. But I think that in many situations it's very difficult to understand what are the right choices that have to be made in order to extract the right value from the business. So my question for you, Mohan, is what do you think are the key elements, the most important things that have to be addressed in order to start a digital transformation journey for a company?
That's a great question, okay? And this is a question that I think a lot of companies are struggling with. So my own focus on digital transformation or digital strategy, I have actually chosen to focus on what I call legacy firms, firms that built their legacy before the internet came. And these are firms that have primarily relied on product-driven revenues. They have built their competencies through their value chains, and they are very familiar with the industry in which they operate. But the new breed of companies that have actually created this whole buzz of what we call digital transformation because of the possibility or the potential of new value because of new digital technologies, that has come from these large platform companies like Facebook and Google. So for me, the question always has been that how should a legacy firm look at this new environment, right? And how do you, so that's the context in which I see this. And to answer your question in terms of what are the key elements, so I would say there are three main elements and they are interrelated, okay? So the first element is about data, and more specifically what is new about data. We have always had data, but this phrase about data is the new oil or the new gold, that has come about because of what the Googles and Facebooks do with data. What is different about their data? Their data comes because they started getting data from the internet. They started off with what I call interactive data, that is data that comes at a continuous stream. Whereas most legacy firms, because they started with products as their main base, they largely have what I call episodic data. So there's a big difference between episodic and interactive. One way to quickly understand this is take an example of going to a Barnes & Noble, say a retail store, and spending 2 hours there, walking out with one book, and see what kind of data would a Barnes & Noble have as compared to you spend 2 hours on Amazon and you buy nothing, right? So there are a lot of there's a huge new world with interactive data which you can get from pinpointed sources, which you can use in real time, through which you can create a lot of new revenue streams. In fact, the big success of the Googles and Facebook has been of how they have used interactive data to create individual profiles and drive billions of dollars of new revenues from advertising. For us as legacy firms, now we have access to sensors and interactive data through sensors and IoT. For us, the challenge is to start thinking differently about how to unleash the power of this data, because even today we use most of our data like episodic data.
For the first point, it's not just a quantitative difference, but it's a qualitative. It's a different kind of data. That's really interesting in my view.
Exactly. And it's a mindset change, in terms of how you view this data. So, and how you use it. These platform companies use their data for new revenue generation. Even if we get sensor data and IoT data, we use it largely for more efficiencies in how we sell our products. We are not able to, as yet, generate sizable revenues from that data. So that's a challenge. And that's where I come to the second point, is that you have to rethink your business models. So the business model behind product-driven revenues, they are of a different class than business models from data-driven revenues. And because Unlike platform companies where most of them generate revenues through advertising or through some standard parameters, the legacy world is different because there are all kinds of products and all kinds of businesses and all kinds of complications to get interactive data from customers. So there's a huge set of challenges there. And that's where the second point comes, that we have not yet in a systematic way figured out what's the business model and what's the strategy. And that's where I do a lot of the work. And the third point, if I may, is about the buzz of the day is about AI.
Yeah, of course.
And there, the catch is that everybody is talking about AI, but what they actually mean is GenAI. But that's what has actually changed. People have been using AI or analytics for a very, very long time. So GenAI can do wonderful things if you have a lot of data, and if you are able to use that data to create new content. Like for example, you can create the data through thousands of movies that you have, pixels that you have. You can create a new picture, you can create a new video, you can, or through huge database of all the words from the internet, you can create new poetry or new essays. So that is understood. And today a lot of the value from that kind of work is largely being taken by individuals, right? Just like how we started using smartphones and things. The challenge is for legacy firms to use this power in a systematic way. And they have to think differently about that, which is they have to start looking at where can you use GenAI to create content in a way that facilitates new value creation. Because it is not as obvious as creating a new movie. We are not in the movie business, or we are not in the music business.
Yeah.
We are making bicycles, or we are making tractors, or we are making, we are selling insurance. So where does this GenAI play a role in our business, and how do we channel it? That's the other key thing. So those are the three elements that I would think are the key issues with digital transformation.
If I were the CEO of a manager of a legacy firm centered on products, what would you suggest me in terms of what to do, the first steps to start my digital journey and business transformation?
So I would, in a simple way, what I would say would be that try to visualize first what is the value you're currently creating through your products. And imagine that if you're having access to interactive data through your products, or interactive data in the value chain that is applying your products, imagine in what ways can you create new value. That's the first step. Okay, just imagine without any constraints, what are the things you could do? I'm selling mattresses, for example. If I get interactive data from mattresses, I can maybe predict health risks or improve quality of sleep. Those are the things, right? Then start thinking, to deliver that value, what kind of analytics can I use? Where does ML play a role? Where does GenAI play a role? How does it exemplify the value? And then start thinking about the business model. That's where you'll run into a lot of challenges today. That is, where do I get the data? Do I have enough data? If I need so many data points for my mattresses, I need to sell 1 million smart mattresses. How do I do that? Answers are not simple, but they are possible, provided you think about them in a logical, systematic manner. And this is the at the core, it is what it is, right? Well, how am I using my data today? How can I use my data going forward? What is the business model behind creating new value from this data? And of course, how is the value created or helped with advances in AI as we go along? That's an ongoing journey. And remember that even the Googles of the world, they started making money through advertising only around 2012. Yeah. So they've been around for a long time. So this is not going to happen. And we have a much bigger challenge. They had a simpler thing. All the data was interactive to start with. We have a much bigger challenge. But my hope is that that we find, anyway, the kind of investments that are going on in GenAI, we better find some ways of using it, otherwise we are all in trouble.
Yeah. Well, Mohan, thank you very much for your great insights. I think that over the next 3 to 5 years, every legacy firm has to start thinking about building a new future using data. They already have a lot of them, maybe they even don't know how to use them. And I think that it's really valuable to them to use some of the frameworks, but also the whole mindset that you were talking about. So thank you very much for this.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure meeting you.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Pleasure being in Milan, by the way. Thank you. Thank you.
Ascolta Voci di Innovazione, il nuovo podcast di Cefriel.